Alright guys, Tactical here back again today. Hope you're all enjoying your Wednesday. It's early morning here in San Francisco, but we're going to be discussing something that happened last night, largely to do with back on track with Modern Warfare. The last few days we talked about this Mutex situation that popped up out of nowhere. Back to the Modern Warfare stuff today and the issues. A lot of the pros are getting very frustrated with the game, and to top it all off, Ake's talking to the developer, or not actually talking to the developer directly, but talking to Joe Cecot, one of the lead guys over at Infinity Ward, saying that the things he talked about in an interview with a YouTuber are absolute lies, at least in the context of the relations with the professional community. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the video. Like if you do, subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. And let's hop right into it here. So first of all, of course, the Mutex situation as discussed. Teddy Rex did this announcement a couple of days ago saying my announcement is in 5 days, so 3 days time from now. Super stoked. Come on, baby, let's get the season going. So I imagine he's a substitute on some sort of roster here, there. And Josh says, you know, Dallas Empire question mark, of course, given the Mutex situation. I doubt that's the case, just because a tweet that Clayster did, he effectively said in his tweet, you know, we're still looking for a 7th, as did Bevels, I believe, actually, on the Los Angeles Guerillas. So I imagine if that was set in stone, then they wouldn't be doing a tweet saying, oh, we're still looking for a 7th, if Teddy Rex is already going to be sorted for their squad, if you see what I mean. So yeah, I doubt it's going to be the Dallas Empire or whatever, but we'll have to see where Teddy Rex ends up. Could be very interesting. Could even be something like Florida, because Florida haven't officially announced their team yet. The team of, let's see if I can remember it, Havoc, Morks, Skies, not Brack, but Frosty and Brasini, that's the one. So yeah, that's the squad, and you know, who knows, we're still awaiting their official announcement, of course. So this is what I wanted to get on with today, because let's talk skill-based matchmaking. This is one of the most mind-blowing, you know, announcements really that I've seen. So this guy, okay, he's not a Call of Duty developer, he's an Apex Legends developer, and he says the following: skill-based matchmaking will be the norm for most multiplayer games, as there is indisputable evidence through data that it helps out something like 80 to 90% of the community with retention for most of those games. It hurts the 10%, I know, still tough, still though, ours might need some tuning potentially. Now, this is a pretty outrageous statement to me. I would love to see where these figures and where this evidence is actually coming from. 80 to 90% of the community apparently benefits from skill-based matchmaking, and that is supposedly indisputable. Like, let's just spend a couple of minutes here just picking this apart, because first of all, skill-based matchmaking is a massive issue in terms of the skill progression for individuals. I'm happy for a protected bracket to exist for players that are new to the game. I would prefer that to be, as it was in Black Ops 2, like 7 years ago, in the context of a combat training. So I think it was up until level 11 you could play in combat training. You knew that you were going in to play against also lower level players who were just getting used to the game, all of this stuff. You knew that as soon as you came out of that, you were going to be put into the battlefield against good players, average players, below average players, as expected when you base the ranking off connection and not skill in its entirety, right? That made sense. I'm quite happy for new players just getting into the game to have a protected bracket of individuals they can play against that are around the similar level to them, and then after they get a little bit better, then they get thrown into the real deal. However, skill-based matchmaking on the whole just ruins the experience for so many players, because, okay, if you're a good player, you're always playing against other good players, and it's really frustrating to have to always use the best weapons, and in order to compete. I love the experience of a typical public match game that I can hop on. This is why I love Call of Duty on the whole. That's why I fell in love with it initially, is because I could hop on for 30 minutes if I had a spare 30 minutes, just play a few public matches, not really have to think too much, maybe whack some music on, and just destroy some noobs or something like that. That's at least how I've been enjoying Call of Duty over the last couple of years, right? Obviously, it took a few years to learn it and get decent into the game, because I was awful as when I first played it, as I'm sure a lot of you guys were as well. As I'm sure pretty much everyone is. That's part of the learning experience. It's part of the experience to see players in your lobbies going 28-0, dropping nukes on you, dropping all these streaks and thinking, that's the guy I want to be one day, and I'm going to work to improve to get to that level. With skill-based matchmaking in the game, if you're what would typically be a 0.75 KD player, you're up against other what would typically be 0.75 KD players. Once you get a bit better, you start having a couple of good games, you go double positive in a couple of games. We know it's been, tested and proven by Exclusive Ace and Drifter, at least to a very high degree of likelihood, that there is skill-based matchmaking for the last 5 games. So then, if you start having a couple of good games, it will start matching you up against other players who are also having very good games, and then all of a sudden, all the 1KD players, or would typically be a 1KD player, are now in the same bracket. As you keep getting better, you have no idea whether you're actually getting better or not, because you played 2 games, you do well, then all of a sudden you get put into better lobbies, and now you're back to even. Am I even getting better? Like, how good actually am I at this game? You don't get that progression with skill-based matchmaking, and that's the situation for every single player. You don't have that ability to get better through the ranks. You don't have the ability of, if you're a good player, to sometimes get a really good lobby and stomp a load of noobs and do awesome, and other times you get a harder lobby, you get a couple of good guys on the other team, you have a fun little competitive matchup within the game. That stuff just doesn't exist with a skill-based matchmaking situation. Just wanted to have a quick little rant on that, because the fact that there's indisputable evidence it benefits 90% of the player base, like, come on, mate. Like, if anything, it should be the complete other way round. So let's just crack through a few more things here. So TSM Daquan says, one day developers will realize you can't protect noobs from getting bogged. You had ranked, people will smurf, etc, etc. History doesn't lie. Let's have a look at a couple of other issues with the game here. So Bazo says this is one of the camera angles here on Ramazza. You can see pretty much the entire body of this guy from this position on Ramazza, but from his perspective you can't see anything. Now, yes, this is an issue in all FPS games, but at the same time, in an ideal world cameras aren't quite this bad, but it is, these kind of things do happen. Let's talk about a couple of other issues with the game then. Scrap says, why am I practicing for millions of dollars and being told I'm lagging and getting yellow red boxes on my screen because of how many friends I have? And, this is an issue on the left-hand side of the screen. You may notice in previous CoD games as well, I think Infinite Warfare added this. You have little icons which come up to show you if your connection's a little bit unsteady. And effectively, if you have too many friends on your PSN friends in this game, they come up all the time. It's really a stupid glitch, and apparently deleting all your friends gets rid of it. This is the egg stuff then. So there's this Charlie Intel article. YouTuber Ad Swag asked Infinity Ward several questions about Modern Warfare during a recent event, minimap, skill-based matchmaking, perks, and more. And apparently they have no plans to change the minimap, which is just another frustration, but I guess at this point we are very used to it. So let's have a look at the quick summary here that Charlie Intel gives. Now, the big one really here related to the egg situation is the dead silence stuff. Now, the Season 1 content we'll go into in a second is pretty interesting. We'll leave the dead silence stuff for the moment. They say they made some mistakes with the perk balance. They need to analyze it more. Tank nerves, spawns in mode. They're looking to improve the spawns across all maps and modes because the spawns are still absolutely terrible in this game. Look at this map voting thing. They don't want map voting because data from previous games shows players leave if their vote does not win, which breaks up the lobbies, which, okay, fair enough, but at the same time, if Piccadilly gets randomly selected, everyone leaves anyway. So it's almost better to just give the people the option to choose a map, and then so you don't get Piccadilly or, Azure Cave or any of the other awful maps being chosen. But look, apparently vote to skip option could be potentially coming. And this is stupid anyway, because they don't want the lobbies to break up, but after every single game they break up the lobbies anyway, so they can match people as best as possible on their skill-based matchmaking algorithm. No plans to change the minimap, camo issues, skill-based matchmaking, they cannot talk about it. We've just dived into that in some depth over the last few minutes. This is what Paddy P has to say on the situation. Just so you know, the quote regarding dead silence, so here you go. For pubs, they will lower the footstep volume overall. Devs working closely with pros to test out what works best. Paddy P claps back at this. Just so you know, the quote regarding dead silence and working closely with the pros is an absolute lie. Unbelievable. They probably will fix it because they legit have to. It makes the game legitimately unplayable, but they aren't currently working closely with any pro. And you could say, well, how does X know this? Maybe some pros are working closely. I'm sure they talk to people behind the scenes. We did hear that some of the guys, Parasite, some of the New York guys as well, I think Illy maybe as well, Attach definitely did go out to, talk to the developers and help try and fix things. Clearly hasn't made too much impact. And, just the fact that I have no reason to disbelieve X on this issue. It's just incredible how, I guess, the developers think they can get away with some of this stuff, right? How I don't know, if X is telling the truth here and they're outright lying on this issue just to make it sound like they're more in contact with the community than they actually are. It's just incredible to see, and with all the issues in the game, it just, adds on to the frustration that we as the competitive community are feeling right now, and I think very much understandably so. So a couple of other things to go through before we finish the video. The Toronto Ultra announced where their March home series venue is going to be. They do a nice little announcement video here. I think they also released their ticket prices as well, which are slightly less than in the other places, but I think you're still probably paying $140 for the weekends for a decent seat. So the Maple Leaf Gardens is where it's going to be held. Pretty cool stuff. I think they have ice hockey things going on there as well, but I'm not too familiar with Toronto. I'm sure some of you guys are, but yeah, that just to bring that to your guys' attention. The tickets are already expensive, and in addition to food and accommodation and travel and all of this stuff, just for a couple of days of relatively meaningless league matches, it's not pretty. One thing that may be better though for the upcoming season is we just have an announcement of a Season 1 and Call of Duty Modern Warfare drop. They've released some content free for everyone, which honestly is a great change that they've made. And over here on the left is the real key point. New multiplayer maps, Crash, Vacant and Shipment. Now this is quite interesting just to discuss really quick. Of course, Shipment isn't going to be a competitive map. The other two have potential, but I think for 5v5 it's not really ideal. I think the Crash and Vacant probably are too small to make 5v5 work, to be honest, in Search and Destroy especially. I'm not even sure how Respawn would really work. Maybe it could work on something like Vacant for a 5v5 Respawn map. That's certainly possible. Maybe Crash as well. But we'll have to see how things develop. I'm not sure Crash would really play too well in Respawn. I wish we got something like Strike. I don't know if you guys remember Strike from COD 4, but that in my opinion was the best S&D map we've ever had in Call of Duty, at least from it was the map that's closest to like a Counter-Strike map that plays incredibly well for Search and Destroy. And I think for 5v5, that map would be absolutely stellar. But, you know, we'll have to see. Maybe things will come in towards the future. Just wanted to finish off with this then, as, you know, Dark TAC5 Recon points out to me on Twitter. So this this comment here from Ross, obviously he's just poking a jab, right? He's just having a bit of fun, kind of in relation to the reasoning that that Hastro gave yesterday. So saying, oh, you know, Huntsmen, it's not inclusive. I'm pretty sure this guy's just playing around. I doubt that's, I don't know, he's really, I doubt he's really being sincere here. But Hex has a fun little reply, and I think this kind of brings to light some of the issues with Hastro's announcement yesterday, but that was just something to run past you guys anyway. So like if you guys enjoyed, subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thanks for watching as always. I'll see you next time.
Top pool. You're about to get it.
Got two, watching pinch.
Top pool, top pool.
Wow.
Out of cross though.
Yeah, we have crosses, guys.
One's deep in their spawn.
Yo,
bro.
top pool, two top
We
pool,
low-key
two top
kind of
pool.
flipped. I saw in mid-map.
Top pool like came back from me. Go went to hell.
Win mid-map
What
right
am I
now.
doing?
Mid-tracks.
He's pissed. Get him out of hill, yo.
I'm trying to.
Oh, press the wrong button.
On hill, dead.
Alright, good shit. I'm gonna leave you. Everyone leave kind of.
I'm watching
Fucking
over you too.
spawn killing.
Yo,
them,
go
bro.
around back left. Go around back left.
One guy bottom pool. They're still spawning back here, guys.
Wait, you mean that us?
Bro, they're on me. Finesse! Let's go!